I am Taz. I spent 20 years in the United States Air Force. I retired in 2015. For the most of my career, I was in major acquisitions as a program manager, where I would assist the Air Force in purchasing fighters and bombers. I also did that for the Army, Navy, and the Marine Corps. I did some time doing aircraft maintenance, and even though I was an airman, I deployed with the Army both times to Afghanistan. Since I've retired, I essentially work for free, mostly to serve veterans. I'm going to start with some facts. So, less than 1% of the United States population, citizen and non-citizen, serve in the U.S. military. These numbers include Army, Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps, active, reserve, and guard. Of that fraction of the population, less than 20% deploy in a hostile combat region. And of that 20%, less than 20% actually engage in combat fire, meaning the enemy is firing upon you, you're firing back in defense of yourself, your team, and more than 40% combat with post-traumatic stress. Now, there's some details in a deployment that I can totally understand, but the numbers just don't add up. I feel like that there's something wrong with coming home to society. So I do recall, after my first deployment, coming back very angry. I could not understand why these people were so angry and complaining about the most innocuous things. And my thought was, I just came back from a fourth world country. You have nothing to complain about. On both deployments, I had missions outside the safety and confines of the encampment. I understand what a lot of the veterans go through when they come back home. I understand the whole transition challenges. Those invisible injuries, post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, and moral injury really weighs on the veteran. The difference between a veteran's trauma and the non-veteran's trauma is, I believe, moral injury. My friend, Chaplain Jim Fisher, U.S. Navy retired, he called moral injury an injury of the soul. And he goes into a long explanation of the injury of the soul. But if you think about it, all of it has to do with life and the loss of life, or the taking of life. And it brings to question faith. Right? So there's a lot of people who suffer from trauma that says, why me? I believe that moral injury is, why me? Why did I have to take that life? Or why did I have to leave that person behind? Or why couldn't I not save these children? And it brings the question back to personal guilt. So you have the trauma, the psychological effects of trauma. You have the psychological and physical effects from traumatic brain injury. And then you have moral injury. So if you look at the signs and symptoms of post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, and moral injury, there's a lot of similarities. The current medical community likes to treat post-traumatic with a pill and talk. Traumatic brain injury, they want to treat it with pill and physical therapy. But nobody really addresses moral injury, because you can't give a pill to the soul. It becomes a challenge. I find that a little disconcerting. Nobody, the faith leadership circles, is really addressing injuries of the soul. So I feel concerned that that aspect is not getting addressed wholeheartedly. There's this organization hosted, I believe, or sponsored by Samaritan's Purse, called Operation Heal Our Patriots. It's a couples retreat. The chaplains that serve try to address the moral injury aspect. At the end of the story, just say, thank you for sharing, and I'm so happy you're here with me today, and it's going to change your lives. Sometimes all it takes is, thank you for your service, you are not forgotten, and I love you. Simple words that can